Welcome to the ThoughtLeadership.biz podcast. My name is Chris Machut, small business owner, engineer, and passionate technology advocate for making our lives better. In this series, I share my vision of the future of technology and industry through the lens of a safety and productivity pioneer.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another enlightening episode of ThoughtLeadership.biz. I am Chris Machut. In the last podcast, we talked about how it's tough and often lonely at the top. Very lonely at times. This week, I'm going to be talking about one of the most dangerous byproducts of the tough at the top lifestyle: leadership burnout. Why? Because as one of my viewers pointed out, and there's only one or two of you guys, thank you for watching, everyone talks about employees getting burnt out. Nobody talks about leaders themselves getting burnt out. So let's do it. And also have a look at 5 great ways to avoid it too. But before we do that, I need to remind you, and as always, to check out my latest articles and podcast, more on thoughtleadership.biz. And don't forget that you can catch me in person on YouTube or listen via Spotify and Anchor.fm. Oh, and I'm on Apple and Google Podcasts too. You could also get yourself over to Twitter and LinkedIn if you prefer, but you can pretty much be sure that you won't get left behind, as this is the leadership blog after all, if you subscribe on both LinkedIn and Twitter for notifications. Alrighty then, leadership burnout, one of the biggest professional bummers out there. So why does it happen exactly? Well, the answer is, as you can expect, it's pretty complicated, but the definition is quite simple. Leadership burnout is a state of a long-term mental and physical stress and fatigue, usually caused by investing large amounts of energy into a job without seeing the desired results. It's possible to also burn out while creating the desired results, of course, but either way, burnout is bad. So bad, in fact, that the WHO has classified it as a disease. Yeah, really, as a disease. And the disease is on the rise. Given the fact that we live in such a fast-paced world where competition is often cutthroat and achievement is everything, it's no surprise that our well-being suffers. Leaders in particular are expected to be great and as high-performing individuals. As a result, they're experiencing relentless pressure to challenge, nurture, and inspire their teams and teammates while driving performance, creating high-quality outcomes, and ultimately moving those metrics all in the right directions. But this level of apparent peak performance often comes at a huge cost, both financially and in terms of health. Leadership burnout can cost billions and also burn a hole in efficiency, profits, and reputation of a company or an organization. But it doesn't have to be that way. By recognizing the telltale signs and understanding a few key principles, it's possible to not only sit comfortably at the top of the leadership tree, but to do so without worrying about burnout and finding yourselves lying in a pile of entrepreneurial ashes and further down the line. So, number 1, what happens in the office stays in the office. Unless you've recently sold your house, been evicted, or even kicked out of it by your other half, which is pretty much the same thing, I suppose, don't live in the office. And I'm not just talking about physically. So many people, especially with the advent of the pandemic, COVID has wrecked through society, have physically left the office, but still remain in the office in their mind for hours, if not days afterwards. That's never healthy. It's crucial to understand that staying in the office in whatever form it takes doesn't equally produce productivity. It's usually the opposite. It shouldn't be a medal of honor either. Taking time off work is just as important as work itself, as the brain needs time to relax, yada, yada, yada. We all got to energize ourselves. But we can do things that don't require so much thinking, planning, and pressure to recharge ourselves. So make sure you unplug regularly and give yourself a break before you reach that breaking point. Number 2, pitfalls in perfectionism. Nothing is perfect, period. I remember hearing a Buddhist monk explain it like this. What is more beautiful than a perfectly ordered set of 1,000 trees planted in perfect rows or in a forest of 1,000 trees going where they will? Most of us would agree that the forest is more beautiful, right? I would anyways. Now, I'm obviously not saying that you should let everything go and allow your organization to run itself and grow organically. That would just be, well, dumb, right? What I'm saying is perfectionism is impossible. So there is no point in even trying. All that will happen is you'll burn yourself out. The pursuit of perfectionism is one of the leading causes of chronic stress and subsequent burnout. My advice? Learn to accept that good enough is good to go and move on. Life is really too short. Know your limits is number 3. I'm sorry to break it to you, but despite what you may think or what people may have told you, you're not a superhero. So don't try and be one. There's no need to try and live up to other people's expectations, as you rarely will. Now, there's nothing wrong with working hard, being committed, and going the extra mile. But if you're not careful, before you know it, you'll be headed towards the point of no return. So, to avoid this unwanted excursion into the badlands of burnout territory, you need to learn the gentle but effective art of saying no. That's the bottom line. Know your limits and just say no when you know you need to. Number 4, have a hobby. You have a hobby, great. If you don't, get one. There's no better way to change lanes than get stuck in your favorite hobby, whether it's rock climbing or music or sports or relaxing with a good book. Whatever it is, it's an antidote to burnout and should be encouraged because at the end of the day, life is there to be enjoyed, not just working all the time. The latest research also shows that very clearly there is a link between enjoying your favorite hobby and an increase in mental well-being. Even such simple things as going on vacation can make a marketably and measurable difference in your physical and mental health. The most successful long-term leaders in the world all know the secret. They all make time to have fun, and you should too. Number 5, delegate with discretion. Many leaders are control freaks, absolute control freaks. It often comes with the territory, but that's nothing to be proud of. Like a perfectionist, control freaks are obsessed with everything being done the right way. In other words, their way, which isn't the right way. And what happens if it doesn't happen? Yep, they freak out. Instead of freaking out, they should learn to give out by delegating work to others. But that's usually easier said than done, especially to begin with. While it's true that in the short term, it might be a pain to have to explain for 30 minutes how to do a job that would have taken 5, but intelligent thinkers think long term and play the long game. By delegating the right jobs to the right people at the right times, you will kill 3 burnout birds with 1 strategic stone. You relieve yourself of short-term stress of having to do it yourself when you are already overloaded. You free up time that can be used on doing something else, or even take a quick break. And finally, you show trust in and empower your employees, which is often super productive gaining for the entire team. By delegating with discretion, you can increase productivity, improve morale, professionally develop your team, and also keep yourself on the right side of the borderline between business bliss and burnout. It's really your choice. So there you have it. Burnout is inevitable. It's not a certainty. It's simply symptomatic of a series of bad choices that have compounded over time. So if you're beginning to see the warning signs and smell the burning embers at the bottom of your leadership tree, don't ignore it. Action these 5 tips today and learn to avoid leadership burnout before it even begins. By doing so, you'll ensure that your organization is on fire the right way. This is Chris Machut. See you next time and stay safe out there.
Thank you again for listening to this ThoughtLeadership.biz podcast. I'm Chris Machut. For additional information on this podcast, including additional sites where you can stream from, make sure to visit us online at www.thoughtleadership.biz in your favorite web browser. I wish you a safe and productive day.